Alright, so we're back under the car. We sprayed this off with brake parts cleaner. Cleaned up real nice. Almost all of the gasket material came off on the pan, so that was not a challenge. So we're going to start off by putting the valve body back in its position. Which was a 10 millimeter, I think. Perfect. So I'm going to take a little bit of this tranny fluid that's staying dripping here, and I'm going to rub that on the O-ring of the pickup tube, just to lubricate it so we don't rip it or roll it as we're sliding it in. Alright, so take this guy, line up that pickup tube in the front. Let's get here our locator. And with a little bit of force, it should pop back in. Put some bolts in here if we can remember where any of them go. Possibly. This is a manual valve of some kind that gets moved when you shift the car manually, and it runs through its pretend ZV key gears. All right. Gonna replace this. Maybe. Looks like this should be pointed more this way. There we go. That's one you definitely don't want to miss. All right. Now we got to put the strainer back in. Thoroughly cleaned. We're going to take some more of this lovely, delicious translucent fluid. Put it around this ring here. And pop this back up in there. Austin's PTSD didn't kick in. Looks like we have 3 more 10 millimeter bolts. Need to go in there. Should be in this tray over here. When I cleaned out the pan, we didn't see any metal shavings. No debris. Really fine, ultra fine goo was on the magnet. I suppose it's normal. At least I hope it's normal. Then even after we get this in, we'll probably give it a quick shot with brake cleaner again to get this goo that's my fingers are leaving on here. And yes, you should probably be wearing gloves. All right, that leaves us at double checking this. Double check that this is seated on the little lever that sticks out in that slot. You should be able to take it off there once you're all bolted up. We'll clean this off. We'll clean the tray off one more time. We're going to put a bead of ultra gray on the tray, put it into place. And then tomorrow, when I'm off on lunch, I will make a trip to the Subaru dealer and pick up some liquid gold to fill this thing up with. That's it. All right. After constructing an amazing camera mount for my phone, we're gonna take a look at the pan. All right. So it's got this nice pliable Subaru OEM gasket on here, which when I redo, I'm gonna redo it with gray, ultra gray. Peel some of this off here, and then I have a cheapo disposable plastic scraper here that I'm going to use to remove all this. And I already cleaned the magnet off when I pulled it off the car. We're going to get the whole thing cleaned up, nice and clean. Okay, so they recommend that you put this guy on there, you tighten up all the bolts, finger tight, so it smushes the gasket material. Wait 1 hour, then tighten it down to torque specifications. Allow 24 hours to cure before filling with fluid or returning to service. Alright, so we're back underneath the car. We wiped down the flange again real quick, and we have our pan all covered in shmoo. And we're going to put it back on. Don't forget to put the magnet back in. I've not put the plug back in mine yet, but I will. I'm gonna go ahead and start off right here and just try to bring this up. So I've seen a lot of really cool things in our local Subaru group. It's Grand Rapids Subarus, and I'm doing this video for two reasons. One reason is because I want to encourage the other guys in the group to go ahead, shoot some videos, record the crazy stuff you do, and don't be afraid if you're not doing everything perfect. But there's a lot of knowledge in our group. Like I said, I've seen a lot of guys doing a lot of cool stuff. And why not share that knowledge? You know, and I guarantee you, some of you guys are going to watch this, and you're going to see a bunch of stuff that I'm doing wrong. Because I'm not a mechanic. My ability to work on cars is not worth, $100 an hour or whatever. This is just me in my garage trying to save myself a few bucks. And if I fail, I just want to make sure I learn from my failure. So again, if you're in your garage and you're doing something, why not throw the old video recorder on? Everyone's got one stuffed in their phone. Record it, and the video you put up might really help somebody. We've got guys in this group who have done everything from, the 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder swaps in their Subarus. I think there's a guy out there with a LS swapped Outback. I mean, there's all kinds of cool stuff in this group. And at the same time, there's people in the group whose knowledge base, stops short of just being able to change their own oil. And so anything you're doing could potentially help somebody. 2 weeks ago, I was sitting in my driveway going, what the fuck am I gonna do? The transmission in this car just gave out. But sure enough, you jump on the YouTube, you start doing some research, you find a couple guys who know half what they're doing, thanks to that knowledge base on YouTube. Potentially, I'm going to get this done for, probably all together with the parts, the used parts I bought. A couple tubes of this ultra gray, 6 quarts of Subaru CVT oil, and I had to go buy a new cheapo multimeter, so, $250, somewhere's in that neighborhood. Alright, so we already put the drain pan plug back in. And we just got back from the Subaru dealership, who was a little reluctant to sell me CVT fluid, which was kind of weird. Apparently, and I don't know how true this is, I'm sure they have different part numbers, but according to the guys at the parts counter, CVT fluid for a TR690 CVT is different depending on whether you drive a XT or a NA car. So I don't know if they're just different part numbers or if they're actually different. But anyway, we have this little pump. We got onto our CVT fluid in this jug here, and the car is leveled out, and we're going to go ahead and try to filler up here. And the idea, I guess, is to fill it up. So we're going to fill it up here until it starts to leak back out the hole. Alright, that's what we were looking for right there. We started to get a little bit of a drip. Got the pan filled up to the hole. So, we're going to wipe that down a little bit. And we're going to put the plug in. We're going to turn the car on. We're going to let the CVT warm up to its operating temperature. And go from there. Well, the Forester is topped back off with CVT fluid. It ended up taking quite a bit more fluid than we were expecting. If you're gonna drop the pan on that, you better have, I would recommend at least 11 quarts of fluid laying around to fill that bad boy back up. And as we filled it up, we made sure it was level. We skipped a lot of this with video because it just took a long time and it was pretty manual and boring. But in short, you fill it up to the plug level while the car's level. And then turn the car on, put it in drive, run it through its gears. And while it's running, you pull that plug back out and you top it off again. And then once you got it full with the car running at temp, we put the car on the ground, we drove it around, we brought it home, and put it back up in the air again with it running, and managed to put about another quart in. The great news is we took it for a really long test drive. We took her out for a couple hours, and lo and behold, the transmission seems to be working great. I think it feels even better than it used to. So I'm not sure if maybe it was a little low on fluid to begin with. Maybe somebody else had done a trans flush in the past and not done a good job, or maybe that solenoid had been crappy for a long time and only been working half-ass. But long story short, it's been a day or so, and the car seems to be running great. So I think we've managed to pull this one right out of our hat and save a bunch of money. If your car throws this code, if you're up to the task, I definitely recommend giving it a shot. Like I said, I love Subarus. I love my car. This has been a pain in the ass, and I'm not super thrilled with some of the things. But at this point in CVT technology, we're going to call this a win. You hear a lot of CVT horror stories, and this is probably the best case scenario right now. Is it was actually a serviceable part, and we managed to take it apart, put it back together, and so far so good. So if you're going to try this on your own, good luck. Again, I encourage any of the guys out there who are doing work like this, if you're going through one of these weird projects, and especially with Subarus, you guys know there's a million different quirks to these cars. Throw together a video. It's pretty easy. I don't have a fancy camera. I don't have fancy lights.
But hopefully this helps someone. If I do all this work and there's one guy out there who goes through this problem and sees this video and it gets his car back on the road for him, then I'll be glad. In the meantime, stay inside and enjoy working on your Subaru, because there's pretty much no Subaru out there that couldn't use a little work in some way. Thanks.